Crochet is very, very popular at the moment. Not just people who enjoy crocheting, but have you seen how much crochet stuff there is in shops at the moment? Every high street shops, I think, has crocheted items at the moment. I've seen a few things online that I've been very tempted by. But in this video, I'm going to talk about why we might want to just hang on a second and be a little bit careful when it comes to buying crocheted items. And there are two reasons for that. One, they may not actually be crocheted, which I'll come to in a minute, but also you've got to think about who's making these crocheted items. If you're new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me to get my channel seen and to grow my channels. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm very, very grateful to you. So crochet has been increasingly popular for the last few years. I saw loads and loads of crochet in the shops last year, and there's even more this year. I have seen a few things that I've been very tempted by because crocheting something does take a bit of time, and obviously the yarn costs money. I saw a top in a online shop recently, and I must admit, if they'd had my size, I would have been very, very tempted to buy it. But there are a couple of things that are making me think twice about it, and those are the things I'm going to talk about in this video. I often hear people say there are no crochet machines. I saw a post on Reddit a few months ago saying there is actually a crochet machine, but it's not used commercially. So for knitting, we have commercial knitting machines. So I don't know how clothing factories work because I've never been in one. I have a domestic knitting machine sitting in the corner over there staring at me. But clothing factories have big commercial knitting machines, computerized ones that churn out meters and meters and meters of knitted fabric, and that's relatively easy. There is no such alternative for crochet. I have never seen a crochet machine. I've been told there is one, that it does exist, but it's not used commercially. So shops that sell crocheted items, from what I understand, and if you know otherwise, do please share it in the comments. So from what I understand, all crochet that's sold commercially is handmade, which means that somebody is actually making it. And that brings up a couple of different problems. If you are seeing something that's being sold very, very cheaply, for example, say a crochet bag for £20, a crochet sweater for £30, chances are that the person making it is paid very, very little money, probably pennies. Now, as a designer, I use sample knitters, and I'm sure a lot of crochet designers also use sample crocheters. And a lot of designers and yarn companies who also use sample knitters do not pay their sample knitters a huge amount of money. It's not like earning minimum wage, and I do appreciate that. Very little kind of piecework type work is equivalent of earning minimum wage, and I do appreciate that. The people crocheting for high street companies, my assumption is that they come from countries where wages are low and where living standards is low, and where maybe they just have to take whatever job they can get. I know sometimes people say that, you know, wages are lower in these countries, so paying them less is okay. I think it's very difficult to be paid a fair hourly wage for something that is handmade, especially knitting and crochet, because it does take a long time. But I also think if you're buying a sweater or a bag from a high street shop that costs £20 or £30, chances are that the person making that crochet item is going to be paid pennies. And unless you are making something really tiny and you're incredibly fast, that's not going to make you very much money in any part of the world. It's not going to be enough to live on, I would have thought, in any part of the world. So that is the one thing, is to think about how much are people actually paid, what conditions are they working in, are they working from home, are they sitting in a factory working? I don't know. If you have any inside information on these topics, let me know. If you know anything, if you've heard anyone else talk about this, let me know. But I'm assuming they are working in some kind of factory and their working conditions may not be great and they may not be paid that much. I've also seen designer brands. So I was watching a YouTube video a few days ago, and it was a luxury YouTuber, somebody who does YouTube videos on luxury, mostly luxury bags, but also luxury lifestyle generally. But I really like bags. I cannot afford designer bags. I like watching videos about them, about the kind of bags I know I'm never going to be able to afford. But I enjoy watching videos about them and why people buy them and stuff like that. And she was talking about this Prada bag she wanted that was crocheted. And I was thinking, well, I hope a company like Prada, because they're selling this for thousands of pounds, they would pay a decent wage. But I do know that luxury or designer companies in the past have been called out for basically using slave labor. So I'm not convinced they necessarily do. Also, is it actually crochet you're buying? A few days ago, I saw somebody I follow on social media post. I can't remember whether they'd seen something online. I think they'd been into a shop and seen something that was labelled as crocheted. And she said when she looked closely at it, it wasn't crocheted, it was some kind of embroidery. And twice this week, I have seen an ad on Instagram from the same company. One, I'll add a photo here. It's a screenshot, so it's not the best quality. I saw something from Simply Be that was described as a crochet look dress. Now, that's all I caught in the original title. I screenshot it, and then when you swipe through all the photos, there's another photo which shows you a close-up. So I screenshot that and I zoomed in a bit more, and I was like, that's not crochet, that's knitted. When I actually went back to look at it now, when I was preparing for this video, it does actually say crochet look wave stitch knitted mini dress. So you might think, okay, so is it knitted and crocheted? It's all knitted. I couldn't see any crochet in the photos that were shared on the website. So if it's crochet, if it's knitted, doesn't really matter, but at least be honest about it. So I read it as crochet look. I was like, what's crochet look? It's like a feather and fan, basically, feather and fan stitch pattern, which is very popular in Shetland knitting and probably other traditions of lace knitting as well. But it's a very traditional, common, popular stitch pattern, and it's definitely knitted. It's not crocheted. So I guess the title says crochet look knitted. I read it just as crochet look, so that's partly on me, but it does have crochet and knitted in there, so a lot of people might think it's crocheted. I've also saw on the same website a couple of days later, I had another ad on social media, and that's also from Simply Be, and it said Joe Brand, so I guess that's the label, the brand, sweet and simple crochet cardigan. And it looks, I'll put the picture up here, it looks like crochet motifs that are joined together, but I looked at the picture and I thought, doesn't look quite right. So I clicked onto the website, I swiped through some of the photos, found a close-up one, did a screenshot and zoomed in on it more, and it's not crocheted. I'm not sure that it's some kind of sewn, whether it's just like they punched out the holes, or whether it's some sort of embroidery. I'm not sure, I can't quite see, but it's definitely not crochet. I'm 100% sure it's not crocheted. So, and I'm sure you see that as well. This is slightly off topic, but you see regularly in national, international newspapers, magazines, things like that, when they talk about crochet and knitting. You also see it in films sometimes when they have somebody crochet or knit. A lot of people don't know the difference between crochet and knit. I have seen people say they've seen in films or pictures somebody who's holding knitting needles, but the stuff hanging from the knitting needles is actually crochet, not knitting. Or people mixing up knitting and crochet in articles where they've been talking about how popular crochet or knitting has become. But then they're, say for example, they're talking about how popular crochet is, and then they show pictures of knitting, or they're talking about how popular knitting is, but they're showing pictures of crochet. So that's obviously people who don't really know what they're talking about, and should probably find out if they have somebody in their life or in their office who know about knitting and crochet, just to confirm that they're using the right photos with the right article. But that's a little bit of a side, but it does annoy me quite a bit. So if you see something that's crocheted in the shops, think about two things. How much is it? How much are they charging for it? How much do you think the person who's made that is being paid, and what conditions are they working in, which I think is probably as important as what they're being paid. Is it actually crocheted? I think if it says crochet, like this Sweet and Simple crochet cardigan I mentioned, it says crochet and it's not crochet. So to me that's false advertising, because it's not crochet. And the dress, I can see, because it has crochet and knitting in the title, so that's a little bit interpretation, I guess. But do check what you're buying. Even if you're buying something very expensive, is the person actually being fairly paid that made it? And I appreciate that for all kinds of textile items, we can, or probably everything else we buy, we can be talking about whether the person making it is being paid fairly and working in decent conditions. But I wanted to particularly address the issue of crochet because of the fact that crochet is done by hand. And at least with knitting, they're probably using computerized knitting machine or even manual knitting machines. But with crochet, they're crocheting it by hand. Which, when you see how they're making these beautiful uniform things, is quite amazing, really. They must be very, very skilled craftspeople. Also think about whether you can make it yourself. So the crochet sweater that I saw, it was bright pink, like a tunic style, lacy tunic style. And I must admit, if they'd had my size, I would have been very tempted to buy it. I couldn't crochet that for that price in the yarn I would want to use. Having said that, I can't remember what it was made of. I'm guessing, because it was a high street retailer, I'm guessing it was probably 100% acrylic. And I personally don't like working with acrylic, most acrylic yarns. I don't like wearing it. So for one thing, why buy something that's 100% acrylic that I don't enjoy wearing? I also wouldn't buy the yarn in 100% acrylic to make a garment for myself if I could afford something else, because I don't like wearing it. But it was pink and it was very pretty, so I was very, very tempted. And also it takes a lot of time to make something for me because I'm not small. On the other hand, I saw a crochet bag in Marks and Spencer's on their website, which I really liked, although I didn't like the colours, and I am seriously considering making one. I hope you found this video interesting. Let me know what you think about this discussion, especially if you have any special insights into how much people are paid and the conditions and that kind of thing. Let me know what you think. Have you bought something crocheted that you feel maybe you shouldn't have? I'm sure we all have at some point, but let me know. Leave your comment below and let me know your views on this. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.